Alright, in this video I'm going to install some bar risers, and I'll kind of go through some options as well as why you do that. And let's get started by looking at a couple of different choices here. So the ones I'm actually going to install are like this. They do have different sizes depending upon what your bar diameter is. These are 1 1/8, which are the kind of larger bars, that usually typically single tube like that, not the smaller ones. But they also have more simple bar risers like this that just mount to the upper triple clamp and can raise up up to several inches. I've gone with the sort of modest rise. This one is 1 3/4 inches. And the reason I chose these is because I actually have this original equipment dampening system that has these kind of rubber pieces in here to help dampen vibration and harshness in the feel of the bars. So in order to still use that, I needed to use this style bar riser. Now these can be kind of pricey actually. So, I mean, these are actually about the cheaper ones, but again, they don't have the option to use that. I want to say these are about 50 bucks, but these ones here are much closer to $100, a little bit more even, I think. In any case, I'll show you what that kind of looks like here. So before you get started, you want to make sure that A, you got the right diameter for your bars, and B, that you have enough room or slack on your hoses and wires and everything, such that when you put those risers in, it's not going to be restricted by brake hoses, wires to kill switch, etc. Okay, so that's the piece of ordering them. Now the other thing too is, so why do we even have these? Okay, so some people prefer the feel of the bars being higher for even off-road use. I mean, typically for motocross, I've never done that. I've always just run the bars at OE height, which is what everyone else does. But snow bike's a different thing. You have a significantly different center of mass now that we've added this whole back section here. In addition, you typically don't want to be too heavy on the front skis. So being able to move your weight back a little bit helps keep some weight off the front ski, especially on steep downhill descents, because you don't want to kind of lose control because of that. So anyways, being able to move back on the bike helps. It's a little bit more comfortable to have those bars raised as well. So there's a number of different advantages. I prefer about 2 inches of rise on my bars for my snow bikes. Okay. All right. So one thing I realized in trying to install these risers here is that there's a little bit of interference on this edge with that area there. So I actually went ahead and used a grinder to clearance that a little bit. Just kind of a general thing you run into anytime you're adding more than one aftermarket piece. They're definitely not guaranteed to fit together. In any case, I just put a little tape on there to decrease any collateral damage there, and then just grind it a little bit there. You can see that helps to mate that up a little bit better, so I can get a little bit more purchase on this clamp here. I mean, it slides in a little further because originally it was kind of out like that, so now I can slide it in a little bit more like that. So don't be afraid to modify the pieces you have to make sure you actually have a good end product. The only other thing too I didn't mention before is on these snow bikes, if you're going to run these handlebar warmers, they have these inputs and outputs. Those are really hard to find clearance for if you're not running these risers. So almost on this setup, a must to have those. I actually couldn't run them last year when I didn't have the risers on there. So another advantage, gives you more space for stuff like that. All right, so here's what the bar risers look like now that they're all installed. And I had to modify a few things to make everything work. Like I had this aluminum plate here I used for my temperature gauge, and I had to modify that a little bit. And I did choose to use some titanium bolts here and there just to kind of make things look a little different. But I was able to actually make mine work with these dampening clamps. But anyways, probably the most important thing you come across with when you're putting these on is making sure that nothing is too tight. Now, it may be too tight only when it's turned all the way to one side or the other. So for example, this clutch cable, or clutch hose rather, because it's hydraulic, is fine right now, but as soon as I turn that all the way to the right, then it gets tight. So what I realized I had to do, I actually just kind of smooth that out. This is kind of a sharp bend, so I don't think that should really compromise any strength there, but I just kind of went in there and sanded that off to make it a little less likely it's going to kink that hose and wreck it. So just make sure you're looking at everything, making sure your hoses are run with as much slack as possible. Every once in a while you may find that you actually need a longer hose just to be able to make things work, so just account for that when you're ordering these. Don't just go with the 3 or 4 inch risers, because those often require some different cables or hoses. But there they are, look pretty good.